So, just so you're all aware, I'm sure you've seen this a million times, but it's a mix of storyboards, Previs, and animation. It's mostly Previs, actually, so we're in a good state to show you guys. There we go. Thank you for being one of the first major audiences to see this thing. We did actually do a little bit of a screening when we launched the crowdfunding campaign. Was it a week and a half ago or something like that? Yeah. So exciting, right?
Yeah. Cool.
Basically, it's a project that I started about let's see, December last year, and it was meant to be something that I was just going to sit on the box and do on the weekends. And then I put it onto Artella to see if there was anybody else out there that was interested in it. I was surprised how many people reached out to sort of say they wanted to get involved. And now there's about 60 or 70 people who have signed up on the platform.
Wow.
That doesn't mean to say there's 60 or 70 people working actively on it now, but there's probably a dozen or so. You know, all those different parts of the film are in various different stages of progress with various different animators and previous people. Some are industry professionals, some are straight out of college, and you know, we kind of get the best out of probably the people that are somewhere in the middle. So you can kind of see there's a lot of stuff in there that's like, it'd be really easy for me to punch up quite straight away, but then there are other stuff that's a little bit more developed. Yeah, and that's how it's progressing. We're about halfway through production, because I give a lot of credit to the storyboarding and the writing phases of things. Just getting things off the ground is the hardest. We're definitely past the biggest hurdles. Like all the assets are all rigged, and characters are textured and things like that. You may notice that the characters kept changing colours. That's because we started out, I didn't do much research on what colours they were originally. I had my hero character brown initially, then I made the other character blue. Then partway through we did some colour development stuff and realised that it needed to be the other way around. So we decided to make the island that the hero character wants to get to like an orangey colour. That way it's sort of like everything's brighter and more saturated and beautiful on that island, and then the hero character comes from a more drab sort of desaturated blue colour. So even the tones of what you were seeing there is off, but I'm trying to get everyone to switch all the characters, because actually that's one character rig as well. It's just got a load of attributes on it, so you can tell it. So on the top controller of the character rig, you just tell it how old is the character, what colour is the character, and what size and things like that, so you'll get a bit of variation. I mean, you could change the number of beads on the head and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, if you've got any questions or anything, I'm here for a bit, but I don't want to take up too much of your time before you all head back to your desks.
Yeah, well, I was impressed by just a comment more than anything was like how much you can get out of the mushroom. You know, in terms of the action, I felt like the the stretching of the texture on the face actually was way more impactful than I thought something so simple would actually be.
And I think
I felt like that was really good.
Because like there's nothing, like the first pass, we didn't even have the beads or anything, and I put the controller in there knowing what will be there, but once there's a texture on there, I think that will read a lot better too.
Yeah, yeah.
And we've got some variation in all the textures so that all the characters look a little different. But yeah, it's like a challenge in filmmaking really, because you've got, there'll be a bit of kind of stuff in there, and actually we're putting, one of the perks we put in the Indiegogo was to say if you want to do a voice on it, you can pay for one of the perks.
So is there a plan to do voiceover at some point?
Yeah, I mean, we'll go through it and we'll just sort of enhance everything with some, you know, those sorts of sounds and things, just to sort of bring a little bit more emotion to it.
Oh.
But it's not actually going to have a voice. It won't say anything.
Okay, good.
It's just
As I
like-
was going to say, I thought it was rather powerful without any kind
Exactly.
of dialogue, really.
Yeah.
I don't think you need that.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's something we want to experiment with. I've got a sound guy in Italy, I think it is, and he said that he wanted to start doing some tests on it, but we haven't got around to actually doing it yet.
So it's just
sound
how
is-
much
yeah.
of a voice there is on
Yeah, I mean, like you say, it might not be necessary. Yeah.
You know how Wallace and Gromit used this like big they don't actually have eyebrows, but they have like a piece of their geometry that they use to show emotions.
They have the benefit of eyes.
Yeah.
And there's like so many things that these things have got. I mean, we had team members who joined up and said, "This is going to have eyes later, right?" No.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's also the mentality that so many of the animators come on board and they expect a biped with a face and everything that they can use. So it's a bit of a different challenge. I'm sort of having to explain to them, it's like, okay, this is a filmmaking thing. We're going, the camera, the lighting, the sound, all those things are going to bring so much more than you expect. But I need you guys to also emote with the performance and the poses and the timing and all this kind of stuff. So it is like
for Wall-E, they also use the stand-in for eyebrows. I just think that's so important to show the emotion, especially because we're really trying to relate to this mushroom, like very much so. Like you want us to feel like to feel scared for him and all that. And this is Previs stage, but if you, I don't know, I'm trying to brainstorm here just to shoot some stuff out and see maybe the beats could be something with that.
So there's strictly speaking like what I'm calling the face control, and it's like a control that sits right here that allows you to expand and close the face area. So when there's a texture on there, it currently does push the beads a little bit. You could kind of tell when you called it out, but it'll be a bit more obvious when there's textures in there too. There's a lot of things that people have suggested too, like we might be able to change the color of the beads to show his mood and things like that. One thing for sure is later in the film, obviously you see he lights up kind of like a phosphorescent thing, which is like a symbol of hope. So once that cue has kicked in the storytelling, we can obviously make him brighten up when he's positive.
What made him light up? What was the reason?
It's more just like it's a surprise for the audience to sort of say, oh look, he's also a phosphorescent character. It's like he's like a lantern of hope, that kind of thing.
So he's unique in that way.
Yeah, although in the final scene, when we pull out to the wider group, what I'm also going to do is have a handful of them in the group also light up, like they learned from him.
It's
So
possible.
It's a lot about, in those early stages, he grows up on an island where all the characters use like very simple moves, and then he's the first one to start bouncing and showing some enthusiasm. So he starts teaching other people other things. And then they're inspired by him, and it follows through in that sense. So when he starts to light up, we might be able to see some of them light up, and so on. We played with a lot of things like when the water recedes, we would reveal different coloured toadstools in the bottom, but it kind of got a bit confusing. Like I thought at one point we could have like, here's the blues, here's the oranges, and then the colours all transitioned down into the middle. So that as you look down, there was all these different coloured toadstools that were a blend of the different colours to show that we're really all the same. It was harder to sell though at the end, so it really did help us to keep the divide. And then what we will do is mix them up. So once they go into party mode and they all start bouncing around, the blues and the oranges mix with each other and they show acceptance, that kind of thing. So it's a lot of stuff to get across without a voice and a performance and everything. You got to sell it in the storytelling. So yeah, there's a lot of weight on just trying to make sure that the filmmaking and the mood is correct. I'm working with a composer in France who I worked with on my last short film, and actually all that music was his, but it was just like his library stuff. So I just like took a load of his library stuff to try and get the tone across, but he hasn't even started on the proper score for it yet.
Yeah.
But hopefully he will bring a lot to the table to do that. Yeah, so...
what sort of reference material have you shown the animators that has been very minimal, for them to say, okay, so that's how that simple character was fully expressed. I can apply that knowledge to this mushroom.
I spent a lot of time like on video chats with the team. So they will. I'm usually doing like a weekly video chat, and I have to vary the times depending on what time zone I'm trying to catch people in. So there'll be a lot of me prancing around in front of a camera saying, "Hey, he does this, and he does that, and does all this kind of stuff." Other than that, the boards were quite communicative.
Sure.
We had one really good board artist from San Francisco who really knocked it out of the park, and then a couple others that supported her. And you know, it just sort of, we had to make it sell it in the storyboards. And a lot of the time, it's just the reversal of that spine and decisions about how you frame the scene, and whether you're pushing in or whether you're pulling out, and what the tone of the music's doing. So all of those sorts of things are layering on. It is definitely a piece, though, that I feel like people have got to pay attention to read all those things. Because I know when you go,
already showing, you can see it already at this stage, so that's good.
Well, yeah, I mean, you tell me how much, what did you...
Yeah, no, I definitely got that. I mean, I think the one thing that one question I have is, you know, after he gets knocked off the rock, like, and this is a very kind of basic question, but like, why does he want to go back if they're not very nice to him? You know what I mean? Like, that's one motive that I...
This is a thing we did play with for a while. There was a point at which we had to make a decision. What did the Grumpy, the other...
I'll shut it off.
Okay. We've got names for all these characters. Obviously, you don't need to know the names. But Grumpy is the baddie character on the rock who just sort of pushes him off. And at one point, we were trying to decide, does Grumpy actually push him off? Because that would make this a place that Martin the Mushroom would not want to go back to. Or does Grumpy just let him fall off? And then it seemed too passive. It was like it wasn't an aggressive enough action to really drive the rest of the story. We went the passive route for a while, and then we decided we had to go back to the more aggressive thing. And so yeah, it is a tightrope we are walking. We kind of came to the conclusion that, you know, he goes back to his own island. He looks at what they're doing, which is this sort of slumpy thing. Tries to join in with them, but his heart's not in it. And he realizes that he has to actually do what his heart desires. And then once he starts doing it, the other characters are inspired by it. A few of them start bouncing from the original island. And then, you know, he figures, oh, this is worth a second shot kind of thing.
Yeah, I can't remember. Is there a moment when they're in the circle where he's bouncing and everyone else is doing that?
It's an area that's not fully developed yet, but it's there. You know, there's a section of the film, Day 5, where he just, the light comes up over him, he sort of looks up, and then he starts bouncing. Just, you know, it's like that. He made an internal decision to be the person he wanted to be.
Yeah, I mean, as much as you can make that a juxtaposition against the whole, you know, that, like, I think that would make it very clear for me, because, you know, maybe there's like a, you know, him in the, you know, a shot where he's just glancing over his shoulder to see that they're still doing the bouncing and the fun stuff on the other island, and then he really is doing it right next to those that aren't doing it, and then others take it on, like, just to make it super clear, because I think then that would really sell that for me, you know, because I think that was one thing, and then the only other question was the challenge of the water. I mean, I know you probably have struggled with that a little bit, because to me, it just seems like it comes out of nowhere a little bit, and that's more of a logistical thing. Like, I get it; it's a fantastical world, and I shouldn't really dwell on those details too much. But my left brain always kind of says, like, wait, well, where did all these waves come from? You know what I mean? Like, it's a little bit of that, and I didn't know if there was a way to maybe sell the waves building a little bit earlier before they start to really get into...
yeah, there's definitely some stuff where the animators have been focusing on the performances and the cameras, and I kind of know in the back of my head that there's things going on in the environment, weather-wise, and the sea and things like that that I haven't layered in yet. In terms of the technology of doing the weather, or rather the water, I know a lot of people have said, "What the hell are you insane? Why are you doing water?"
It's gotten a lot easier, though. I mean,
it has, and it literally, I saw a demo of my 2017 and the Boss tools that they were using to do water simulation, and I went off and did my own tests on it, and it was like, yeah, this is achievable. You know, even if it's not going to be photoreal, I was fine with that. I still kind of secretly would like to do some more visual tests just to see if I can find some way to stop it from looking too real, so that you don't automatically Because the trouble is, if you aim for real but you don't get there, you hit the uncanny valley of like, oh, what am I watching? And you're constantly critically saying it's not good enough. It's not good enough.
And it's a stylized, short to begin with, so why not stay in that realm?
Yeah. But I mean, sorry. I was just going to say, but I was satisfied enough with the test that I did. That it's like, okay, I can definitely tell my story points. If I manage to attract talent that makes it look any better, then that's a bonus. But the minimum requirement was there, so we could do that. Yeah, sorry.
I was just going to say, I thought of a story element that would help foreshadow that a bit. You've got the moon animating, and there's the one shot where it kind of scoots into view and then stays there. So the moon's definitely a presence in the short. If you could have the moon really reveal itself strongly, and not connecting with the tides, could help explain why the water separates.
I guess,
why it lowers.
Strictly speaking, I haven't completely connected the rise and fall of with the moon because it didn't suit my story purposes.
Right. Even if it's subconscious, that could be something that is already an existing part of the story.
I actually recently added a few extra water shots to remind the viewer of the water receding. But in some ways, it would be nice to do something where you see the moon and then the water reacts, that kind of thing, just to give an idea. But strictly speaking, the logic's not there. I've done what I kind of needed to with the two things separately. So I wish they were more tied together, because then that would be completely logical. But one of the things actually that you're not seeing there that I'm also hoping to do is, that footage they do, time-lapse footage of like a mushroom decaying or growing and all that kind of stuff. That's what we want to do in here. So all of these characters have an age attribute built into them, and then what I'm hoping to do is connect that age attribute up to like a master controller in the scene, and we just make decisions about when we're speeding up time and when we're slowing it down again. So when you see the sun go zoop like that will be accelerated time. You'll see like grass and things like that going like this, and characters growing. The only thing I'm going to do, which is a bit of a cheat, is I'm not going to have the characters actually die. It just sort of puts it into a more negative place. So what I figured I would just do is I've got, it all happens over a series of days, and each day I'm just going to reset all the characters. So their ages always start a little bit lower, and they're just doing this throughout the shot, and then the lights go down, and then it's back up here again.
Especially since how quickly they're born.
Yeah.
You kind of have to live in that world of
exactly.
There.
That anything can happen as quickly as it needs to happen to tell the story. Yeah. But what I figured I would do is have the hero character is born up to a certain age, and then I can sort of do this throughout the film, and then at the end he's more on the mature side than on the younger side. Whereas all the characters around him, I can totally cheat. I mean, no one's really tracking it much.
Yeah.
There's a couple of characters that sort of pop up a bit for certain key roles, then I might lock in their age a little bit just to keep the consistency, but for the most part, sorry, yeah.
I just wanted to ask, will the textures change as well as they age, I guess?
That is the goal. I mean, what we can do is we can build, initially I've got the textures for like one base character, but my goal is to attract a few more texture artists so that we can start adding more variations, and then yes, as time goes on we can plug in certain attributes of those shaders into the age attribute, so that as they're getting up, they're growing, their hoods are coming up, the surface shaders and everything would change. That would be the goal. But we also have to account for them getting wet as well. So, but that's not that hard. It's just, a bit of specular on there. See, I'm coming from the Previs world where the requirements are pretty low. I can get away with a lot, and I don't mind. And that's a fine thing. I was completely happy with finishing this film at a high level of Previs look with just a bit of extra sheen on the top. I consider myself lucky if I've attracted the kind of talent that can make it look prettier than that. The guy I'm working with as a CG supervisor, he's done some really pretty stuff before.
Oh, cool.
But admittedly, he's a pro and he's super busy, so I have a feeling his role will end up being more like a consultant who hands down his information to other people who have got a bit more time. So yeah, that's...
I have a question. So I realized that when Grumpy pushes the hero character off, I noticed that other mushrooms behind were still bouncing. So are they watching this happen, or are they just...
I figure that during that moment, they are oblivious to what's happening at the edge. And they're having a little party in the background, doing their jumping and things, and Grumpy's kind of like, okay, no one's seeing me, I'm pushing him off. But this is all stuff that we have to work out in the performance and make to work better. Like some of those shots in there, very first pass, like there was a shot with them all bouncing like crazy just immediately after he's landed on the edge. And it's like, whoa, that tone of that shot isn't quite there yet, we're going to have to make some adjustments to that. But you know, got to show what I have.
As opposed to like they all kind of stop and think like,
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
is this the
what I
right
figured that.
thing?
It's
Yeah.
like, what's
Like-
happening?
Well, we had to make that decision. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
because if they see it all, then like the whole story kind of grinding whole. These are moral mushrooms, you know. Or if they see it all and they're happy for him to be pushed off, it's
Exactly,
like
that's
why
right.
would they ever go back? So I kind of had to go right. Maybe Grumpy's the only one that's seen what's going
Oh,
on.
okay, so he's kind of like off on his own,
Yeah.
noticing it, but the rest of them are.
Yeah,
And they
we could use some set dressing for that. Like I could put a line of bushes or something between.
Or
them.
even
So-
lighting too. If it was
Yeah.
just like lit over there, and then Grumpy's more in
In a
this
darker
darker
area.
area, that could
Exactly.
be enough to really kind of sell that separation.
I know for sure we're going to have to cheat with the set dressing like crazy. We're going to be
Mhm.
pushing reeds and grass and things around per shot all
Mhm.
over the place. I mean, one of the things you notice there is that the world transforms at several stages. Like the waves get a bit too big, the islands suddenly get really big. I'm basically making the assumption that we're telling the story through Martin the Mushroom's perspective, and from his perspective, this is all crazy big stuff. And so that's why we've said, okay, well, when we get into certain moments, we can make everything bigger, and like the set is all rigged so that you can just make it bigger, or you can slide the islands about, you know, all this kind of stuff. And then the same with the waves, you know, it's just a wave rig that we can make, you know, do little things, or we can do huge, great big things. And we just exaggerate it all. The trick is trying to find the tone of where it's too quick, where it's too fast to switch between one reality and the next. I may experiment with some visual effects to sort of take us from one extreme to the next.
Yeah, because even just like the distance traveled, like when he's looking at it, it feels like it's a much shorter distance than when he
It
actually
is.
travels it. You know?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, it's like you look over the water and it looks like it must be, what, 5-6 inches away? And then all of a sudden he's traveling this epic story. So, yeah, I'm very aware of that. And
Well, I mean, you know, you
we
could
have
do
to
something
figure it.
simple as he just gets caught in a current or something, you know, that
Mm.
takes him further away. It doesn't have to be a big thing if you really want to expand that story, but still maintain the proximity due to the ending. You know.
A lot of it will probably just be like suddenly they get out. Once they go out on the log, we kick in a wisp of wind, the rain starts coming down, the lightning, and then all of a sudden it gets rougher and it's harder to get from A to B.
Sure, yeah, just because of the intensity of it all. I mean, you could say like the water all converges between those two islands, and it's the strongest current ever, or whatever, right in that one spot.
There's definitely some stuff we've had to cheat though with. I mean,
Yeah.
at one point I thought, well, if the current is traveling this way, like maybe the log travels this way, and then once he's missed the island, does he go all the way round and back out the other side? That's another thing I had to deal with, and at one point I did have it like that. I had like the ladybird had to go around to the back side of this island when he arrived at the back, and it was just like, oh, this is now the whole thing that the audience doesn't want to think about, so we're just going to have to cheat. So yeah, there was a lot of things to think about.
This might be overcomplicating things,
Uh-huh.
but when the other mushrooms, like when he like catapults them onto the rock, why doesn't Grumpy just Mufasa them as well?
Convenience, I
have
would
a
say.
solution for that.
Okay.
Is it, I don't know in what stage you're in the story. I'm just like gonna throw this out there
No, that's good.
for a thought. Maybe Grumpy doesn't actually push him off, but he's holding there and he's about to go onto the island, and Grumpy kind of goes down like this to see what's going on. And if you do a POV from his perspective, Grumpy looks all big and different, and it's intimidating, and he doesn't know what he's doing because he's a little mushroom. So he actually lets go himself because he's too afraid. Like maybe Grumpy, like maybe it's not just Grumpy, it's the rest of the mushrooms as well. They all sort of like the other family sort of looks down on them, and he just.
Well, that's where you're bringing us into the same questions we've already tackled. You see, if Grumpy doesn't push him off, it seemed too passive. It seemed like there really wasn't a big enough issue to be addressing in the story. So we wanted to basically say that Grumpy's the racist bastard. But then by the end of the movie, Grumpy's turned around and he realizes what's going on and he sort of joins in.
But
I think what she's saying though is it's her own. It's the
an
mushroom's
internal
internal struggle. Yeah.
because I don't think we have enough time to actually get to know Grumpy, or like I didn't really feel like he was the racist. Like I didn't really know.
Well, here's the other thing. Did you notice that Grumpy actually puts down a little kid who we call Baby Blue, although he's now Baby Brown? So actually, Grumpy is a parent figure who's being protective of his own child. And then later in the story, his own child is completely, he doesn't have the same biases that Grumpy's grown up with. So he seeks out Martin, and he's one of the first ones to rush off and join the crowd in the middle when they start jumping.
He jumps on.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's the other little character that jumps on top of Martin's hood, is the baby. And then Grumpy, who's the parent figure, sort of realizes, oh, okay, he's been doing everything wrong. He needs to be a little bit more open-hearted about the experience. So it's kind of all layered in there. We're just trying to make it work.
The thing is, for some reason, I don't feel like there's enough time for me to actually. I didn't catch that when I watched it, and perhaps if you want to have that idea of like families, like the younger offspring, like being more open-minded than the older offspring, you could sell that with at the end of the movie without us having to remember which one Grumpy is or which one is Martin or all those. You could just have them just because of their shape. Like the little babies go in first with more trustful than the other ones, and so on and so forth. And like we don't really have to. Doesn't have to be Grumpy and his son more than.
It helps.
It's just a way of like reading it a little bit better for me, I guess. I don't know.
It would be so sad if the baby one came up and tried to help him up, and Dad was like, "No," and then.
Yeah, that would be stronger than like him just like. Because I don't know why I didn't see.
That's an interesting point,
why.
actually.
Yeah.
Why do you say that? No, I'm kidding. Don't.
That's good. That's good, actually. I like that. No, you're right, because that sort of it very clearly shows Grumpy making a conscious decision to do this thing, and his perspective difference from the little baby character. Yeah, and that's
Maybe
good.
it's just the amount of time.
Did the baby do a little like whoa, what are you doing? Dad or whatever.
There is at the moment there's a shot where you're sort of focusing on Grumpy leaning over Martin on the edge there, and at the moment Baby Blue's just off at the side doing nothing, but there's opportunities there for Baby Blue to be like, "What are you doing, Dad? What's going on?" And then he can like, "No, back here." So that could totally play out actually, but we just have to take some more screen time.
Or maybe like Grumpy pushes him off, casually walks away, but the baby's all like, looks over the cliff, looks back with kind of a judgmental glance, and Grumpy's like, oh yeah. Totally acknowledging that judgmental glance there, but I'm gonna ignore it.
What you're suggesting there sounds like I need a face. Some things we can do.
Slow turnaround, and then, Grumpy like slight turnaround, and then just keeps walking off.
Yeah.
But that won't make any side characters a little bit too important.
Okay.
It is tricky. You can't give them too much screen time, otherwise you end up making a 20-minute film. So.
I guess one thing that could help would just maybe have like blemishes on the mushrooms that like could maybe form like almost like a brow or a symbolic brow or something like that.
Right. I mean, I've gone for the idea that it's like an open face and a closed face, and I feel like if you do it at the right timing and at the right moment in the film, you can say a lot. But I am sort of going a little bit on faith with that, because we're trying to build it up. I really want to get to a point where we're not doing the cast solution of sticking eyes on the object in order to tell the story. We do have like body language as well, obviously.
Yeah, I mean when you have a mushroom cap that maybe is tilted back, that's symbolizing brows being up, right?
Yeah.
Tilted forward, that's determination and anger.
And that's the other thing, is that a lot of people have interpreted things slightly differently.
Sure.
Like some people thought that, I can't really do it, but that the face was underneath the hood, so that when they tilted the hood up in order to imply that the face, which was the top of the stalk, whereas in the end we made the decision for it to be attached onto the hood. So I've been sort of trying to explain the body language to the animators for consistency, so that's been a challenge.
You're defining it in a new way though, I like that.
Yeah, it all comes into the filmmaking. Anyway, I don't want to take up any more of your time. I think that has been fantastic, and I got some good tips there actually. I'm going to have to explore those.
No, but it's super awesome, man. It's an accomplishment even this far, and it's like, and then also I was just I'm really impressed with what you can get out of the mushrooms even at this stage, and so I think you have the tools. It's just about getting that chemistry right and getting it all dialed in. So.
It was just like an exercise that was completely different to the day job, you know. Something like I actually started it when I was working at DreamWorks, and I wanted something that completely complemented what I was doing there, and it still does complement, because I mean, how often do you get to do this kind of stuff at the day job? You know, most of the time I'm running around making things shoot and blast and racing cars and all that kind of stuff, and lasers and robots and cars and crazy stuff. So this is a very nice compliment.
Yeah, for sure.
I just hope I can finish it this year.
Yeah, yeah.
When's the next milestone?
Well, we're currently doing the crowdfunding campaign at the moment, which ends in about 2 weeks' time. So we're really just spreading the word, getting it out there, trying to reach beyond our own social circle. And then really, I'm going to get back into working it on my own. There was a couple of sections there for storyboards that I need to get converted into Previs, because without the timed footage, it's really hard to know how long a thing's going to be. And so right now we're still kind of guessing at the total screen length. And then once all of that's in there, we go into rendering mode and we start trying to figure out how we're going to render the whole thing. But I would like to have the whole thing done in December. I'm sort of projecting January as a slightly later case scenario, but I feel like we could do it in a short time. It just kind of depends on how much time I get to put on the project in many ways, because I think you all know right now is a very, very busy time, and it's hard to turn down jobs. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Thanks.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thanks a lot.